Barack and Kamala's black outreach has been scolding and correcting grammar. But if that doesn't work, maybe a little bribery will. Kamala's proposing giving black entrepreneurs a $20,000 forgivable loan. A $20,000 forgivable loan is not a loan, it's a handout. Number one, how do you prove you're black? I'm 0.1%. Do I qualify? And two, how do you prove you're an entrepreneur? Can you just start a website and pretend you're selling maple syrup? When you add $20,000 to the $25,000 for first-time homebuyers, that's a $45,000 handout. That's reparations in disguise. It's illegal, it's inflationary, and it's dead on arrival in Congress. And it's probably a bigger Hail Mary than going on with Bret Baier. And while they promise massive welfare checks, they're scaring black America like Beetlejuice.
Oh, where do I start? Number one, Jesse, the inflation king is the Lord and Savior you worship named Donald Trump. He's the guy who ran up a record debt for any modern U.S. president, which contributes to your inflation, and your grandchildren, as well as mine, will likely be paying off the interest of his failed presidency many, many, many years to come. That's one. Number two, why do you have a problem with reparations, sir? Even though this is not reparations, of course, I thought you guys liked reparations because you did not complain about reparations when it was allocated to other groups. You see, America loves reparations. America has given reparations to the Native Americans. America has given reparations to our Jewish brothers and sisters, not to the tune they should to black folk, not at all. Reparations becomes an issue when the conversation is about black people. America gave reparations to the Japanese. America gives reparations. Please do not accept the narrative that reparations is a bad thing according to America. They just don't want reparations for black folk. That's when it becomes something just wrong. But the reality is this is not reparations. This is a forgivable loan. And Jesse had another question. Well, what is a forgivable loan? How does that work? It means you have to meet qualifiers, Jesse. It means you have to do a litany of things with the money in order for it to then be thus qualified as a forgivable loan, kind of like what teachers can get. Understand that? Okay. All right. In addition to Jesse Waters, the View co-host, Sonny Hostin under fire for singling out black male Trump supporters as ridiculous, crazy, while sparing criticism for white women. Here it is.
But, you know, we can't poll people's hearts and we can't see into people's hearts. And so when we're looking at these polls and we're looking at who is voting for Trump, you've got 53% of white women that voted for him in 2020. We've got to reach those women. We've got to reach those ridiculous, crazy black men that did vote for Trump. We've got to reach those people. We've got to reach the Cuban men in Miami that overwhelmingly voted for Trump. I don't know what their hearts look like, but I know what their votes look like.
But I'm not talking, just, you know, I'm not speaking to people's hearts.
Man, put her up. Come on now. Now every other group is just a group. But black people, and I'm doing this, Sonny, because the Jesus in me loves the Jesus in you. I'm calling you out, Sonny, because you have to look at what you just did. Instead of contextualizing every group in its proper general context in politics, you decided to allow personal and derogatory illustration to be applied to black men only. That is a subconscious expression. I know you did not likely intend for it to come across that way, but it did. This is one of those moments where you analyze your why and you check it and you realize, well, you know, I could have contextualized that in a more honest way. According to a recent analysis by CNN, working class white women loom as a critical, potentially even decisive factor in Trump's third White House bid. Yet despite their political power and leverage, they were simply described as white women. Cuban men were also spared in this verbal condemnation, despite being the decisive factor when Trump secured Florida's 29 electoral votes in 2020. So this narrative against Black men, how it has become a political dynamic, and the contrast to other groups, they are just, voters, and we need to just reach them, but Black men are crazy and ridiculous, et cetera. This just has to stop. Why? Because one, it doesn't help. It doesn't help. All right. It doesn't help the narrative. Just as I was critical of President Barack Obama when he decided to lecture Black men at a forum where all those Black men are voting, and he decided to say something that was seemingly negative, rather than talking about the positives that are happening. Like we have Mayor Mondale, who is in charge of a Black male voter initiative. If you talk about the positives that actually exist for Black males and their voting numbers and the increase of their voting numbers, guess what happens? They get more voting numbers. Why? Because organizations you talk about, they get funding, they get visibility, and they're able to do more work and talk about the actual message. All right, Wosny, thoughts here?
Just to address Mr. Jesse Waters quickly, just this idea of reparations in disguise. If you actually read, this is just a couple of things. Of all the stuff that Kamala put up there, because I'm not gonna lie, I'm not really too enthusiastic of any of it. It feels kind of cynical, and it feels like something that they just threw out because they saw some internal polling numbers that they didn't like. That's just how I feel about it personally. But of all the things that she put up there, I think this idea of forgivable loans for potential entrepreneurs is the best one. And also, like, if you read it, it says Black people and other groups. She probably can't constitutionally just be like, we're going to give at least $20,000 loans, or loans that are forgivable up to $20,000 to 1 million Black people. I think what they're going to try to do is give 1 million people the opportunity to start businesses and make sure that Black people, Black men are included in that group. That's a one. And nobody thinks that people starting businesses is somehow reparations for anybody. It's just ridiculous. And if it's anything in disguise, honestly, it's a lot of neoliberalism in disguise. It's like, yo, the market will solve everybody's problem. You open up a weed store, one person owns it, everybody's problems are, automatically solved. Just things that I plainly don't agree with. I don't think we built the greatest middle class the world has ever known by like these one-off neoliberal projects. It was by, stuff like the GI Bill, stuff like government-backed home loans, stuff like sustainable long-term programs for people. But whatever, that's neither here nor there. Jesse Waters has proven himself to be a big idiot many times over. But I think the young lady in The View is actually a little bit more offensive in my opinion, Dr. Richey. And I think it's because there's this idea, like if you just follow the logic of what she said, and you give it just the most charitable view, what she's trying to say is that nobody has benefited from Democratic Party politics more than Black men. And so therefore they would have to be stupid to vote for Donald Trump, when we know the people who have been failed the most, are people from, underserved communities who happen to be Black. It's actually the opposite. Nobody should feel more resentful towards the Democratic Party than poor and working class Black people. And Black men, you can lump them in that. So the idea that they should be lectured to, well, Cubans, obviously, because, they're white adjacent. They should be Republican. Obviously, white women are white. So, of course, they should love Donald Trump. So they have an excuse for it. But Black people, Black men specifically, you have been so greatly benefited by the politics of the Democratic Party for the last 30 years. You should be running, you should be sprinting to the poll to vote for the Dems, Dr. Richey. It's obvious, isn't it?
And that's the dilemma, is it not? You have to provide policy remedies.
Yes.
That is the best way to earn and maintain a strong voting support base. You deliver on the resume you campaigned on. Let's just make it simple.